Hey guys, my name is Nabiri and it's time for another Kicking of the Week, and today we're going to be talking about compression. So what we're going to do today is we're basically just going to talk a little bit about compression. I'm going to explain to you what compression is, and I'm going to give you an example when you can use the compression and when not to use it. And we're going to do this in relation with kick drums, of course. So we're going to be working on punches with compression. So just a small disclaimer, we're going to be working on a sample with that compression, and using compression on a sample, we only need to care about our first transient. And if you want to be working on, say, a vocal with compression, you need to think about lots of different things. So it might just be a little bit of a different way of using compression, but if you want me to show you how I'm going to use compression on a vocal in a full track, let me know in the comments down below. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is what actually is compression. Compression just basically is automatic volume control. The only thing that makes it a little bit tricky is that you need to set up your compressor so that it starts working at the right volume. And the way we do that is with the threshold. The threshold, for here example -18, is the amount of volume we're going to let through without being compressed. And if it gets louder than that -18, it's going to get compressed. And the amount of the compression that we're going to put on there is defined by the ratio. So if this ratio is just 1:1, it's just not going to do anything. And anything higher than 1:1 is just going to make the compression more extreme. Then we have this attack. And attack basically just means the little delay after the sound reaches our threshold and goes over there. Just a little delay before the actual compressor kicks in. And the release is just the extra amount of time that the compressor is going to take before it gets back to an uncompressed signal. And well, we're going to be working on a sample right now, so 50 milliseconds of release is nice, just because we're not really having more information to compress. We only want to create our transient over here, and we're going to do that with the attack. And after that, we're going to let the compressor go and just get back to 0 as quick as possible. So what I mean with that is, say we get this quite loud compressor over here and we put this attack. Let's just put the release open all the way just for display purposes. Right now it's going to take a long time to get back to the 0 point. And then it's just going to be different for each time that we're going to compress our snare over here. And if we just keep it at a low release, it's just going to get back to 0 quickly so we can really work on our sample again. See, each time that we're playing the sample, the compressor is just neutral again, so that we're really working on only one sound. So it's useful to use compression on a sample, for example this snare, because it's really a break of a sound, and you might want to get some more transient in there again. So the first thing we're going to do is settle our threshold, and let's just choose -10 because it's not too heavy and it's not too weak either. And then we're going to just play a little bit with our ratio. You're noticing that if I keep increasing the ratio, the compression gets more. And we're just going to find a balance in there. But the thing that we want as well is we want our transient to pop out first. So we're going to put our attack at the right speed. And I suggest maybe something around 10 milliseconds is normally quite okay to put a nice transient on a sound. And then we're going to increase this ratio again to just see how that changes our sound. And if you want to have really clearly what this compressor is doing, you can just lower this threshold and you're really going to hear that sharp transient and just the sound being compressed too much. And now we're going to just mix that into our sound. So we're going to take this threshold, move it up a little bit, and take the ratio and just balance it out a little bit. For example, something like this. Right now you're hearing that transient just a little bit better than we had with the uncompressed version. And in some cases you want that. So now I want to give you an example on when you can use this compressor as a nice tool to get some more transient out of your punches. And the moment that you want to use this compressor, or that you can use this compressor, is when you have a nicely layered punch. So for example, this one, it's already having a nice snap, it has some nice body, it has a nice layers in there, and yeah, it just sounds alright. And then you could maybe compress it a tiny bit to just bring out that snap a little bit more. And we're just gonna do this again with settling the threshold and moving the ratio and moving our attack knob. So I just play around with my compressor like this until I get to some nice settings that just increase the transient a little bit. As you saw me doing, I just put our threshold to a certain point and then start playing around with the ratio and the attack until I get a nice transient and a nice volume balance. That's all that I'm looking for. Sometimes I like to use the output level as well to just balance it out again and just make the output sound just as loud as the original sound. Because if you have the uncompressed version like this, and if you then take the compressed version, it's smart to keep that same volume so that you can really hear if you compress the sound properly. We humans always like to hear loud sounds, so sometimes a loud sound sounds better, but a compressed sound could be better for our track and just for the sound in general. So in this case, the compressor is used properly because we just increased the transient a little bit on our already finished punch. We already had a nice sound and we just enhanced our transient a little bit so that it sounds a little bit more snappy. And at last, I want to give you an example when you don't want to use a compressor. Say we're still working on our sound and we haven't really layered our punch yet. We're still just really on the sound design stage. Say we have this punch. It sounds nice, but it's not layered yet. So we're maybe just still EQing this and maybe still putting some distortion in there. If we then randomly in the middle of our chain just like to put a compressor, and even if we put it to the right settings with some nice attack and just enhance our transient, maybe something like this. Say it gets a little bit more snappy, but after that we're gonna apply some distortion again. This is basically just gonna take away our compression. So even though we compressed it over here, but we distorted it afterwards, it's just gonna get not compressed again. And really at this stage, this compression is not gonna work that well because the distortion after the compression is basically just gonna take away that compressed sound again, just because the distortion is gonna play with your volume as well. So I basically recommend that you're going to be using compression on finished punches just to enhance your transient a little bit. And I really recommend that you don't just use it randomly in a chain when you're still going to use tons of distortion, because that distortion is just basically going to erase your compressor. That said, I hope you liked this video and I hope you learned something from this. And hopefully I'll see you back soon again. Cheers!